I am Susan Bernhard, Chair of the Board of Directors, and I'm going to call the 2021 Newburyport Marine Society Annual Meeting into session. And the time is 6:33. So, welcome and thanks for joining us tonight. Later tonight, we'll vote to fill the 3 open board positions. Voting will be with a verbal yay or nay. If there's a question, on the vote, we have the ability to vote via the Zoom. The names of the 3 board candidates for the 21, 20 through 24 term are Nita Lamborghini, Sharon Spieldenner, Paul Spindlehurst. Members were mailed and emailed the background information of all the candidates. Individually, each candidate brings a strength to our team, but collectively, their skills make the board stronger to grow and secure the Custom House Maritime Museum. This year was a challenge. It wasn't easy for any of us, but I think the Custom House team did a wonderful job. Everyone worked tirelessly, upgrading and promoting the museum while creating virtual programs at a moment's notice, then transitioning to safe events. Our team's quick response, applying and receiving PPP loans, launching the new Maritime Tree fundraiser, pursuing grants, sponsorships, allowed us to keep staff and to open this year, the only local museum to do so. Through all these efforts, our members continued to support our actions. It was your donations and donations of the community, of the local businesses and supporters that kept us going. We always feel blessed when we see estate donations. This year was we were especially thankful for those who made the Custom House and 4 other local nonprofits recipients of their estate trust. A big thank you to Conley and Conley to helping us on that one. July 2020, the Custom House doors proudly opened to several renovated galleries, updated exhibits, and a new exhibit. The entertainment for man and horse, rituals, libations, and distractions in an early American tavern. We're thankful for our sponsors who trusted us to open and show this exhibit this year. Our commitment to open safely to the public was important to us, as we felt bringing visitors to the Custom House would support downtown businesses. Our safety precautions follow the Massachusetts guidelines. It was due to those precautions we have remained open since July, and I'm happy to report there's been no incident of COVID at the museum this year. A big thank you for that is to Joan and the staff and all the volunteers who made this a COVID-free session. Tonight is about where we've been, where we are, where we're going. Joan Whitlow, Executive Director, gives you an update on the building and educational programs. Mike Loreno, Treasurer, provides a financial health check and will facilitate the voting of the new directors. Jack Santos, Vice Chair, reviews the 2020 events programs, and I'll return to update you on 2021. At this time, I'd like to introduce Joan Whitlow, the Custom House Executive Director.
Hi, everyone. I'm just getting my screen up here. Before I begin, I just want to say that we did mail out the letter notice for this meeting, but we also sent out an email simply because we wanted to make sure. Sorry, I got to get this out of the way. Anybody want to help me here? I don't want to quit. I'm going to do this again here. Sorry, everyone. I wanted to say that I sent out a letter for the notice because as we become more virtual, I want to make sure we have everyone's email. And often I don't have in the records, the membership records, the email. So I really would like to make certain that we have that available for everybody. There we go. So I want to give a little bit about the building update. On the left-hand side, you see a cover for an 81-page report by Finch and Rose. It might be a little too small, but at the bottom, you can see the year 2004. This is a document that assessed the building condition. it's a snapshot in time, not only of the structure, but the infrastructure, the heating, the security, the fire protection, and the electrical, etc. It's a guiding document for the repairs and the improvements that the Custom House Maritime Museum has been doing incrementally over the years. It's a wealth of information, and but we know it's dated. So this year, Greg Colling, a historian, preservationist, and an architect, we've had a relationship with Greg for many years, which has been really wonderful for the continuity and also the care of the building. Greg always advises us on best practices and in some instances, proper materials and techniques. Greg is capturing not only the work that's been done since 2004, but also the new work to comply with today's building codes. He's collecting engineering data, but also really inspecting with a critical eye. Greg knows this building. The updated document is to be completed this spring, and it's critical not only for defining and prioritizing our projects, but demonstrating to grant funders there is a plan in place, and the Custom House Maritime Museum is working through that plan. Another update that I'd like to give is the exterior doors project. You may recognize this as being the front doors that many people do know. You know how FedEx takes a picture of your package after it's been delivered and they either text it or email it to you? Well, one day I arrived at the museum and there was a package on the front step, but it was not for this address. Before I could call FedEx to question, the doorbell rang, and it was a woman very upset that the package was not delivered to her home. She shared the photo with friends and they immediately recognized the door. Oh, that's the Custom House Maritime Museum, which I thought was really very funny and telling. These doors have seen the nor'easters, many nor'easters and events since the 1870s. The beautiful tall wooden doors that need to be restored, not only the wood, but the wrought iron hinges and pins. As both materials, there has been wear and tear and loss. You can see the crack through the center picture detail that shows the gap. Sure, there's a vestibule on the other side, but the wind still pushes up in those doors, and we really cannot provide a stable museum environment inside. The project has raised $25,000 through the 2020 annual appeal and private donation, thanks to everyone's support, but there still is money needed for the project. As you see in gray, we are making a request this April to be presented to the CPC for funding. So it's really not guaranteed, but that's our next hope and our next desire and plan for getting closer to the money that we need. In addition to the in addition to the front doors, we have the rear doors. Currently, there's 2 commercial doors that were installed in 1970s, and these 2 have seen the ravages of time and have multiple repairs. On the right is Greg Colling's rendition for a more appropriate period doors. His drawings are based on the other 2 Robert Mills Custom House exterior doors, one of which is in New Bedford, New Bedford, Massachusetts, and the Custom House Maritime Museum in New London, Connecticut. When you see this proposal, many have asked, how is that restoration? But we're not restoring the doors. We're restoring the building back to the 1872 period. This is a time that the building was initially updated and many of the smaller pane windows were replaced. And that's also the time that they believe that the marble flooring was installed. So these new doors will look more appropriate for the period, but also comply with today's safety codes for egress. For many who know the building, just on the other side of these doors are 4 steps down. So you can imagine the basement is below grade. One major component of the project that often is unsung is the installation of removable floodgates. There will be channeling that will hold the flood barrier in the event we should need it and not repeat another 2006 Mother's Day flood, which actually closed the museum for a year. Another building update is the HVAC feasibility. This initiative was funded by the CPC, the Community Preservation Committee, in 2019, and we have started work on this too. This is a study to address the building envelope in an effort to stabilize the temperature and relative humidity. Why? Well, museums talk about preservation and essentially taking precautions to extend the life of an artifact. We know that the Egyptians got it right. Put stuff in the dark, dry environment and it will last forever and longer than the objects that are kept in damp environments. So we have begun to monitor the building climate against the outside temperature and humidity. And this is critical since most information in the past has been anecdotal. I often heard, oh, the building gets so hot or it's so cold in the winter. How do you measure that? This chart does just that. This is a chart from the Bushy Gallery, the changing exhibition place that we have in the museum. And often lending institutions request an overview of the gallery environment before they approve a loan. And we've been denied getting access to some items for exhibitions in the past. At first, this chart looks a bit of a mess, but for those who have color perception, the blue line is the outside temperature in October. So you can sort of follow it across and it goes up and down and it's kind of wiggly. Now look at the red line for the inside temperature. It's a little bit more stable, but it's still not ideal. The gray line really is dramatic. Lots of ups and downs, high spikes. That is the outdoor humidity. And when you see the yellow line, that is the inside humidity. Again, a lot more stable, but it's not ideal. And that's what climate control is. The feasibility will inform us not only what needs to be done, but how. The goal is for the Marquand Room and the Bushy Gallery to have a more controlled climate, temperature and humidity, while other rooms are comfort cooled. Now I want to switch gears to from the building to the education outreach. We are thrilled to have the Mary P. Barton Charitable Trust recently donate or fund our virtual walking tour of Newburyport. This is a pilot project for elementary schools, and we hope to expand with other age groups in nearby communities. We have hired an intern with filmmaking skills, and we will begin that process later this spring. More to come. Michael Welch continues to promote his Revolutionary War and maritime themed presentations for classroom experiences and has made the shift to virtual. We still have free programming available through the Essex National Heritage Area, so please contact me if you're interested in having an educational program virtually for your class, or maybe a group of children for a community center. We're open to that too. And I also place internships under education outreach, since these internships are educational and they vary. Perhaps it's a high school student needing volunteer hours or a college student requiring credit. It's an opportunity to step into a museum to gain real life experience. I even have had professionals looking to make a career change, but they first want to really see if this is what they want to invest their time and money into before they begin more theoretical and practical learning. Here are some of the interns from last year during our pandemic. Sammy Pickering from Boston College. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and last summer was no exceptions. Sammy's internship with the curatorial department at the Peabody Essex Museum had been canceled, and she wanted to learn more of the daily operations of a museum. And me, being new in the midst of a pandemic, thought, okay, we can do that wearing masks and distancing. Sammy initially helped with administrative work, then assisted with exhibitions and opening the museum, and then finally worked to transcribe architectural documents. I think she was pleased with her time spent at the museum. Mary McGee remained remote, scanning the Robert Cheney collection. This is 6 scrapbooks filled with the visual record of Newburyport from 1830 to 1950s. The images had one time been scanned, but they were at a low resolution captured on CDs. Sadly, one of the CDs was damaged, so Mary spent her time creating all new image files, which is incredible to have as a resource. Work like this is essential, and we already have 2 interns lined up for this summer. Talking a little bit about last year or this year's and next year's exhibition. This is a recent photo of Grant Bellino in the museum store. You may have seen him. He's been taking a class and is very interested in being a part of an exhibition and seeing how that unfolds. And Scott Whitlow are installing 7 works of art from the Coast Guard Loan Program. This is a federally funded program to collect and loan artwork, primarily depicting the Coast Guard. This stairwell exhibit will open in April and has a working title, Semper Paratus, Always Ready. We will be extending the Early American Tavern exhibition through the end of the calendar year to allow us to do some of the program that we had planned last summer. And once the tavern exhibit leaves, we plan to install an ABCdery of the CHMM collection. Essentially, it will be an opportunity to showcase 26 randomly selected items from the collection. Next month, we are also directing our attention to the Marquand Library to clean, paint, and arrange the room to be multi-purpose. It will serve as a part exhibition program space to showcase the rich archival collection, but also be a place for researchers and visitors. Remember, this room is slated to be the climate control, and here is where the paper archives and library will reside, in the Marquand Library. Changing now, I'd like to introduce Mike Loreno, our treasurer, to give us a financial report and sort of a health check into how the organization has been doing and plans to do. Thank you. Mike?
Thanks, Joan. Okay. Diving right in, if it will let me control it. There we go. Okay, so I wanted to start first a little bit about 2020 highlights. Interestingly, almost every single bullet point here we talked about last year at last year's meeting in June. Some of it was still ongoing, but basically everything that we said was going to happen happened, or had already happened actually at that point. But starting at the top, so a quick review. Back last March, at the very beginning of the pandemic, we scrapped our budget that we had for the year and changed, went on a different tack and came up with a critical spend budget. Critical spend budget it's common for any organization that has an uncertain future and needs to really sort of watch every dollar very carefully. So what it really is just your baseline operational costs plus so basically what does it take to keep this organization alive and well and going. And in our case, we talked about how with things completely shut down, do we continue to serve the mission? And so that was a big part of it. But keeping the building alive and well, we did have some side budgets that were never implemented for events. If and when things opened up, we said, let's kind of establish some baselines so we're not starting from scratch. We never implemented those, so it really was just those critical costs plus the budgets to complete renovations that were already in progress. We did take advantage of the downtime by accelerating all of that planned work. So the second big thing last year was we jumped right in at the after it was announced the Payroll Protection Program, or PPP for short. We jumped right in, applied, we received it, spent it, along the guidelines that were mandated, and it was forgiven in November. In fact, believe we I filled out the application, and it was like within 2 weeks we received a notice from the SBA that it was forgiven, which was great. So the way that plays out from an accounting perspective, not that anyone is interested in this, but I'll tell you anyway. You actually record it as a loan when you receive it, so it sits as a liability on your balance sheet. But once it's been forgiven, you wipe out that liability, and it actually flows through the income statement as grant income. And so that's exactly what we did. So we had this liability on the balance sheet for, I guess, about 6 months or so from the date that we got it until we were able to apply for forgiveness. It was forgiven. We converted it over to income. So that was a positive for revenue for the year. Lastly, last sort of highlight of last year, we changed last summer. I think it was early in the summer. We started working with our investment advisor, who sort of manages our endowment, to improve the investment strategy. What we had was a really, really conservative strategy. We had something like 6 index funds, and there wasn't a lot of volatility, which was good, but there also wasn't necessarily a whole lot of upside to it. And so we said, hey, look, if you guys are really good at what you do, we'd like to change our strategy to sort of get some keep the protection on the downside, keep very diversified, make sure everything's sort of safe. But if we can get a little bit more upside when the market rebounds, we'd like that. So the upshot here is, I think as of the trough of the market last year, which was in late March, the S&P 500 was down about 30% on the year. Our endowment had only fallen about 12% in that time. By midsummer, we had recovered completely. At that time, we were converting to this new investment strategy, and we popped up. So we ended up the year up 15% and over $350,000 on the endowment, and that's with no addition to the principal. That was just the principal that was already there at the beginning of the year, growing. And so we're pretty excited about that. Okay, so I just wanted to cover this quickly. 2021 is going to look similar to this, we think, but basically, I just wanted to carve up. This is what, in percentage terms, where our revenue came from last year. And some of these numbers were higher than we expected. So donations, for example, came in as a bigger piece of this pie than we were thinking. Grants, trusts, and foundations came in about where we expected, just about half. Membership held pretty strong at just below 10%. And then you had fundraising efforts at 14%, collections, exhibits, and programs at 5%, and then this other slice. 2021, we're expecting to look pretty much the same. There's going to be one addition, and I'll get to that in a moment. First, let's do a quick 2021 overview. So we started the year again, and we have another new critical spend budget for 2021. We're considering this to be very much a living budget, which quite frankly most budgets really should be, in my opinion. But that's an aside. But what I mean by a living budget is we can't predict the future. Just like last year, we know things are opening. I think we just moved in. The state of Massachusetts just moved into the first part of the final phase, which is exciting. But we don't know, what size events we'll be able to do, for example, later in the year, or when we'll be able to do that. So we did establish some event budgets, kept it separate from the budget, but we've got several categories of events that we'd love to do if and when it's safe to have them. So we'll bring those on and add those into the budget if and when we can do them. The upshot of this year's budget is we did budget for a modest increase in revenue, so we're not looking for anything huge, and we're targeting to break even. So doesn't sound super ambitious, and that was the same goal last year. Last year we did end up with a slight loss, and that is really only because of an accounting issue that happened. We had in our budget last year a reimbursement for the roof, and it did come in. However, after going through it with our accountants, they advised us to record that revenue in the prior year. So it did not hit in 2020. And as a result, we ended up the year at bottom line a little bit lower than we expected. This year we're targeting break even, and that's with nothing really particularly special coming in. We might do better than that, and that's the hope. But we're planning for that break even. Second piece, PPP round 2. So we jumped right back in, applied for it, received. We're currently spending it. Once it's been spent, we'll apply again for forgiveness. So it's just like last year. Currently, it's sitting on the balance sheet as a liability. Our expectation is that by year end, probably a lot sooner, that'll have been spent, forgiven, and will come off the balance sheet and will be recorded as revenue. And we do actually have that in the budget this year. Lastly, on the endowment, we're going to continue to work with our investment advisor to make sure that is managed well, that the current strategy is holding up. We have no reason to think it would do otherwise. Everything's been great so far, but we'll just continue to refine and work with them on that. So with that having been said, here's what we're looking at for 2021. These percentages are almost identical to the other slide. The only difference is that green slice near the bottom, the facility rental. And all we budgeted there was, this includes money that for events that have already been signed onto. So that's what that is. We actually expect that that's going to be higher. So I expect a year from now to be reviewing something like this, and that facility rental will be a higher percentage and everything else will shrink accordingly. But more or less, the way we budgeted it is we're looking at this year to be very similar to last year. Again, as I said, a modest, very modest increase in revenue. So we were just shy of about 240,000 in 2020, and we're looking to be about 265 this year. So with that, we're going to switch gears and go into the, that was fun, go into the director candidates and voting. So we have 3 candidates, and I want to make this clear. All 3 of them, we have 3 open spots. So all 3, we can take on all 3, but we're going to vote on them individually in a moment. Before we do, let me just sort of go through this quickly. And Susan mentioned the candidates at the beginning of the call, but to kind of reiterate and give a little bit of background, we'll start with Nita Lamborghini. Nita's professional career working in higher education brings executive leadership, strategic planning, and an education connection that will add a dimension to our existing education program. Sharon Spildener. As the local Newburyport historical archivist, Sharon is known and respected person in the Newburyport historical world. Along with her many talents, Sharon's connections to local education and other local nonprofits strengthens our commitment to support and strengthen Newburyport's nonprofit community. And last but not least, Paul Swindlehurst. Along with Paul's diverse nonprofit background and expertise, we're thankful to Paul for offering to share his professional nonprofit development background with the Custom House Maritime Museum as we enhance and build the current platform. So with that, the way we'd like to do this is if everyone can unmute their microphones, and we're just going to do a call for each candidate individually. Roll through and make sure everybody's unmuted here. Got a couple people who haven't unmuted yet, so I'll wait a moment. And by the way, if you don't know it, if you just hit Alt A, that'll unmute you. All right. So for the way I'm going to do this is, again, one by one, I'll ask for the yays, and then separately we'll roll call any nays and add it up. If there's any confusion, we have a plan B, but hopefully plan A works. So for Nita Lamborghini, all in favor and all yays?
Yay.
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 All or any nays? Fantastic. It's working. We don't have to go to plan B. I love it. Sharon Spildener, yays?
Yay.
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 Pretty enthusiastic. I love it. Any nays? We are on a roll. Paul Swindlehurst,
Yay.
Yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
any nays? Beautiful. We have 3 new directors. Love it.
Yay.
Great.
Okay. And with that, someone help me out. Who's next?
I think I am.
It's Jack.
Yep. And I'll share my screen. And we'll go over the program highlights for 2020. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm taking that as a yay. I'm not as enthusiastic so that yays. But let's talk about the highlights of 2020. I'm actually pretty lucky because I think this is the best part of the program tonight. I report on all the great things that have happened over the past year. And for most of us, 2020 is going down as the pandemic year when the world stopped. But the Custom House Maritime Museum did not stop. Our museum is a destination within a destination for Newburyport and for all the businesses as a way to help businesses along by being a destination. And true to that, we never closed. We stayed within guidelines. We limited our hours, and we still hosted visitors throughout the year. But in deference to the virus, we did change our emphasis to virtual and outdoors. For example, we opened up the lawn to anyone. Dance, yoga, restaurants, anybody that required social distancing or was helped by being out of doors, as long as they followed COVID guidelines as prescribed by the Commonwealth. So for an example, this is the dance place using the lawn for their outdoor classes. Our outdoor emphasis included joint events with other groups and nonprofits, like gardening with the Newburyport Horticultural Society, where the Horticultural Society donated their time and effort at sprucing up gardens along our lawn. And members from both the museum and the society helped do that. So that was a fun time and an activity we had during the year. We held our annual Revolutionary War musters. That was led by Alex Kane of Untapped History, along with his fellow reenactors. It was a crowd pleaser. It attracted Revolutionary War aficionados, and it became one of the few things that actually happened on the waterfront this summer. It drew crowds as they walked by, and they all did observe COVID protocols by staying 6 feet apart and wearing masks. So that was a lot of fun. And if you were here for it, you'll agree with me that the highlight of the summer was our summer outdoor concert with John Travano and Roger Kimball. It was a perfect evening for members with drinks and just awesome weather. John and Roger did a great job, and everyone who was there really enjoyed it. It made it for a memorable evening in a pandemic year. Now, that happened all outdoors. We didn't miss a beat on our first Fridays, because if you'll remember, back in April, our first Friday took place. It was right after the shutdown, and we pivoted and went on to Zoom, one of the first local organizations that switched to Zoom. We had speakers throughout the year like Greg Collings, where he talked about the building roof work, and a local favorite, Mike Welsh, on taverns and colonial songs. That was great because it was an adjunct to our tavern exhibit. And Bethany Groff Thoreau presented historic New England's ales and tales, normally held at the Sweat Ilsley House, but I'm just jumping ahead a little bit. Normally held at the Sweat Ilsley House, but it couldn't be held there because of COVID. We held it virtual online, try to recreate that social aspect of old taverns by handing out beer to our members at the back door, beer and wine, so they could imbibe while joining our virtual First Friday online at home. So we were pretty proud of that. We also shifted our First Fridays to be interactive Q&A sessions for members, but anybody could join the simulcast on YouTube and watch the entire program online live or later. We found that people from all over the country were watching our First Fridays. In addition, we did our annual Coast Guard Rybacki Award. That took place, and it was a special moment as all the Coasties at Merrimack Station were honored. We're really proud of the first annual Maritime Tree. For those of you that saw it, you saw how successful it was. It was a community event. It supported the businesses at what was just a really tough time for most businesses here in Newburyport. And it was a collaboration between nonprofits. We had the Lowell Boat Shop, the Art Association, the Firehouse, the Actors Studio, the Museum of Old Newbury, as well as the Custom House Maritime Museum participating, and it was a real crowd pleaser. It brought a special holiday feel right to the waterfront, and it made money. It helped keep some of our nonprofits afloat. For instance, the tree topper was donated by the Museum of Old Newbury. They auctioned it off and they made money on that. So good on them. It was a successful event. We hope to make it an annual event from now on. That's the Custom House Maritime Tree. Now, like everybody else, when COVID hit, we put a big emphasis on virtual programs. We called it the COVID pivot, and we emphasized Zoom, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and we had help. Local social media guru Chris Johnston from Wingwalker Marketing helped us kind of amp up our social media outreach. That included a pirate video series, which was a tour of the Custom House when it closed. And we liked that, particularly because it was sponsored by Stone Ridge Properties. It was a good example of how a business and a museum can collaborate, and that helps both of us. Axel Cambone from the Coast Guard station, he upped the ante on Coast Guard participation, creating a series of knot tying videos on YouTube that has been getting a lot of attention on YouTube. And finally, not to be outdone, Miguel Telegon, the first mate of the now Santa Maria, he showed us how to tie a knot too. But he did it all the way from the Pacific Mexican coast. So if you missed any of those videos, go to our YouTube channel, the Custom House Maritime Museum YouTube channel, and you can still catch them. They're all there. So our efforts really panned out because viewership is increasing. On YouTube, we've had 3,000 people in the last 365 days. Most of those went to look at the First Fridays as well as the pirate videos. You can see that we've also had a large uptake on some of the videos that was a tour of the museum and the maritime tree lighting videos. Very popular. But then if you go and look at how well we did with Facebook and Instagram, Facebook reached 50,000 people. You can't get that kind of reach, folks, just to the 20,000 person population Newburyport. So people all over the world had actually found us. It really resulted in 100 responses, actions taken on either the website or Facebook, and 26 people went off and did something like buy a ticket to attend an event. On Instagram, we're at 877 followers, closing in on 1,000. Once we cross that 1,000 mark, that starts putting us in a class like with larger museums like the Cape Ann Museum or Strawberry Bank in Portsmouth. So we're looking forward to that happening. This was my favorite, is the Don't Tell Me that of Newbury. I'm the guest host on that, along with Colleen Turner Sacchino. It's a history trivia contest. We do it every other week. You can check our website or Facebook. It fits our mission. If you join us, it's only a half hour. It's real quick. It's based on the Wait, Don't Tell Me show on NPR. It really does enhance our virtual presence. Easy to join. If you play, you can win a prize. And I think hopefully our next prize will be something like this, a winter lager. So, or if you're kind of embarrassed and just want to test it out, you can join us and just watch everybody guess and have fun. So that's Yeet, Don't Tell Me. Now, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the store. Besides our in-person store presence, even with all the disruption and reduced hours and reduced attendance, the store still sold merchandise and did pretty well. And a lot of credit goes to store manager Maureen Wolf at keeping the stock up and keeping things going over there. Our online store sales continue to grow, and we see that as a significant opportunity. Best sellers, get them while they're hot. Coasters and trivets are still selling. They're made from the old roof. So,
Coasters and trivets.
you go onto the online store and actually buy those. They're still available. And I have a special announcement today in terms of coming attractions at the stores. We're going to start offering a line of shirts and apparel. There's one. A shout out to Matt and Karen Khalid, the owners of the Basin, off of Market Square here in Newburyport. It's a 10% discount for members. So go to our website and contact Maureen Wolf for any pre-orders. We're just starting to get these shirts in. We expect that they're going to we'll expand the line to include hats and T-shirts and sweatshirts. And I'm modeling one right here. I was really lucky to get an early version of this. So the Custom House Maritime Museum T-shirts. So that's all I have. And I'm going to now turn it over to Susan, who's going to talk about the future of the Custom House Maritime Museum.
Jack, you're a tough act to follow. I'm sorry. I'm thinking we always have to put him last, Mike. That's it. So we go. Yeah. Hot off the presses. It looks great on you, Jack. Did you mention it's a wicking shirt? So all you golfers are going to love it. All right. This is, so coming up towards the end of the agenda here, where we're going to talk about the 2021 focus. And we typically try to keep everything, in threes, and our three focuses this year is always our members and what we can do to engage them this year. It's the building preservation and repair, and as well as supporting the Newburyport comeback this year. That's so for the members, as we know, everything's going to be COVID dependent, but we're very, very confident that we can get everyone outdoors. So as soon as the weather is good, for our members, as soon as we can, we will meet outdoors. And Joan and the programs team, who have been phenomenal, have put together a wonderful selection of outdoor lectures, concerts, and pop-up displays for this summer. Being outdoors does require tents, so we're working actively to get sponsorships and donations for the tents so that we can have as many events as possible. Our second is the building, and the building is our number one piece in the collection. So we are excited that this year we are going to focus on, the annual PL is on the preservation repair of the original Robert Mills Custom House front doors. Now, I should say that these are the only only Robert Mills doors in existence. So it is important for us in our goals to preserve them for future generations. But as Joan said, not only is that important for our stewardship, it's important for keeping the elements out of the building as well. Many days the wind blows and the front door alarms will go off because the wind's blowing through that the doors. We are really excited though to get this project done because what a gift and how beautiful it's going to look to everyone going by the building. The rear doors has been needing replacements for a number of years. We have, it's been a lick and a promise going from the 1970s on. They've held up, but the recommended historic replicas are going to make the rear of the building look awesome compared to the front. And with that, with the flood protection that we have, it will help us prevent something like the Mother's Day flood of 06. Unfortunately, the water's not going down, guys. So it's really imperative that we save as much as we can. And last is the gallery refurbishment. We have been on a mission the last year and a half to repair the walls and to paint. And next year, we should have completed all of them, but we'll continue with the balance this year. And we're looking forward to that. And lastly, on our focus is Newburyport. Helping Newburyport recover should be the mission of all of us here. It's important for all of us who live here to help downtown Newburyport. So we see our level of sponsorship on many levels. We have tourism, we have students, we have nonprofits, we have businesses. But kicking off, we're going to share our resources to the local businesses by kicking off a business membership. In the business membership, this time we'll have multi-benefit options that will let each business choose the level that's right for them. So the program's going to kick off at the Custom House with an open house April 9th. So we are hoping that this helps them and it will help us in turn as well. Also on 2021 is events. So it is our hope that we are planning a seated table. We are doing a modified maritime days. We won't have a boat because we'd bring in too many people to the city, but we'll do a modified program. And as well as we will enhance the maritime tree. That last year we couldn't really do activities, but we could keep the tree and promote that with the lights. But this year it's our hope that we'll have activities every weekend. And with that comes, as Jack had mentioned before, we had 14 cross-promotion nonprofits there that we were able to get some revenue for, as well as support them. And this year, we hope we can engage some more and get them involved and get them some money as well. So it's important to us that we continue with our support of the local nonprofits and to help them, because it helps us as well. And this year, one of the things we will be doing on that cross-promotional is the Horticultural Society that you mentioned. The Hort used the back lawn for their meetings, and that was why they chose to support cleaning out our gardens. And they're going to come back this year and do it again. But in the meantime, they're going to use the lawn and do a plant sale to help them raise money. So it's always a win-win when we cross-promote. The Amesbury Carriage Museum will be our May 1st Friday. We'll be part of the Yankee Homecoming Heritage Tour with Museum of Old Newbury. We have this guy from our place, Jack, who co-hosts with Yee Eat. And then we're sharing interns with Lowe's Boat Shop and exhibiting displays from the Art Association. So hopefully that increases, and we're just excited about that as well. So how do we get there on all of this, right? We are working very hard to make the Custom House a destination within a destination. Enhancing the building, the museum, the grounds not only helps the Custom House Maritime Museum, but it helps the entire Newburyport community. Our success is dependent on donations, the successful fundraisers, events, the rentals, sponsors, grants, and individuals who especially individuals who remember local nonprofits and their estates. That's our hope. And we have someone on board now that is a professional fundraiser, so we're really excited about that.
No pressure.
No pressure, no pressure. Um, J. Paul Getty once said, how does one measure the success of a museum? We at the Custom House measure it by a healthy, active community of members, the support by the community for the stewardship of the buildings and collection, and being part of the community leadership to support local businesses and nonprofits. Our success is due to the support of the members and the support of the community. And we hope you will continue to help spread the news of the Custom House Maritime Museum by asking friends and family to become members. And I thank you for listening to all of us. And if you have any questions, we will open that up to you. Let me stop the share. So the bottom line is we survived 2020 with a lot of hard work. And we thank you all.
Everyone's welcome to unmute if you have a comment or a observation or a suggestion. We're always open to hearing from everybody.
I have a suggestion. It's that we're about to have the completion of a design effort for the central waterfront. And it could be, if we're not careful, a suburban park next to an historic waterfront. And some of us, I'm one of the 14 people who has some oversight over the Sasaki design team. I just point out there are opportunities over the next 2 or 3 months to help them understand how the historic maritime functions here, the building ways, the walking tours up and down the rail trail that can be, I know Jack Santos has a QR for his house where we could have markers, but the Maritime Museum could play a major role in helping the design become a maritime park at a historic maritime waterfront. So there's an opportunity the next few months to help Sasaki and appear at the public hearings that will be important to determine what this Market Landing Park expansion does to connect the past to the future.
We're definitely interested in Bill in this. So thank you. We'll reach out.
Yes, thank you. I took some notes. And I have been meaning to reach out to you, Bill, to talk more. So things have been busy, as you see. The year has been very productive, but I feel very pleased, and I'm grateful for all the help and all the good positive energy of everyone working together. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a village, and we're very lucky. Most of the people on this call are volunteers at the museum and have helped us tremendously. I'm pretty much
Susan.
everyone here.
Susan, I had a question for Bill. It seems like you're right into this, Bill. What's the critical path in terms of timing? We're sitting here coming up on the end of March very quickly, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days out. Is there something that we have to really kind of keep our eye on?
There will be 2 or 3 public hearings, and they will be announced in advance. When I learn of them, I'll make it available, make sure the museum knows when they are. But you can submit materials. One issue was, for example, a Greeley expedition statue. This is something people from Newburyport who went to the Arctic. It's not something that happened at the Central Waterfront, but there's been an interest in having a sculpture or something like that. And there could be other maritime sculptures or other markers that let people know what's important historically, and potentially the walking tours that can be done. You're already doing it for students, but to use the rail trail, which has these important building ways up and down the river. So it might start at the Central Waterfront. Maybe there's an orientation at the back of the museum or in the Harbor Master facility. So I'll let you know about key opportunities for public participation, but you should be thinking in advance, what would I like, what would the museum like people to learn when they are here at this waterfront park?
Great, thank you.
You're in sync with us, Bill. Came up a couple weeks ago. Is there any questions? Well, not that I want to leave you, but do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Guys, it was great to see everyone. I can't wait to see you all outside at the museum.
Thank you.
Sharon,
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Nice job, guys. We'll see you.
Nice job. Thank you.
thank you.
Very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Have a
Night.